Okay. So I'd like to pause before we get into the mission, and I'd like to just pause and say something to all of the students and families that are with us tonight. Um, Tonight is an important night, and you've all been accepted to college, and I want to recognize the fact that you are all um, being accepted into a program where you will start being a college student. And we have students with us tonight that are first in their family, who are going to college. We have students who are like myself, who might be second generation going to college. But being accepted to college is a very big deal, and I want to recognize that, and I want to congratulate all of you. This is a momentous moment, and I'd like to start tonight by simply just pausing what we are going to present and give some time for parents to talk to their students about what your hopes and dreams are for your student. And for students, I'd like you to talk to your parents about what your goals are and what you're going to do with this opportunity that you have for the next 2 years. So I'm just going to pause and give some space for you to have that conversation, and then we'll come back into some of the missions and things like that of early college. Thank you. All right, thank you, students and parents. So the mission of Early College High School is to provide all students, particularly those who are underrepresented in higher education, the opportunity to complete a high school diploma, earn college credit, and develop both a vision and a specific plan to create the life that you want to live. And one of the things that's really exciting about this time of the year is that we're getting ready to graduate um, another group of students. And obviously, one of my roles is to come up with a graduation speech, and I'm spending a lot of time reflecting on all of the things that um, students accomplished over the last 2 years. And I'm very proud of the accomplishments of our students, not only because they've earned their high school diploma, and they've earned quite a few college credits, but I think this last thing is the most important, and that's developing both a vision and a plan to create the life they want to live. And when we have our seniors reflect back on the benefits of that program, sure, they do talk about earning college credits, but the thing that they comment on the most is that they have a specific plan on what they want to do, and they have been crafting their coursework and their goals towards that particular goal and dream and hope for the last 2 years. So we look forward to bringing you all into that process and helping you with that vision and plan. Our goals are students are independent learners able to navigate the adult world. College is that adult world, and we want our students to be independent learners, and that maturity that comes from being in the adult world of college certainly came in handy to all of our students this last year and a half with everything that's been going on. They were proactive, they were independent, they were able to adapt, and that was a gift that many of our students had that we were very thankful for. And then finally, that they leave early college with a vision and a specific plan for that next stage in their life, for that next step post high school. Early college, and if you attended any of our open houses, this will look a little bit familiar, but Early college is a full-time, fully integrated college experience, and our students are selected to have a seat at Rock Creek or PCC Rock Creek or Sylvania. They are full-time students in college. They're treated like any other student at PCC, and I've received some emails from students who have been receiving these mass emails from PCC about things like financial aid and things like that. And they are asking, like, what is this all about? Why am I getting these emails? And they're getting those emails because they're treated like any other PCC student. So there is some stuff that you will receive and some emails that you will receive that you don't really qualify for right now. But that's just simply because PCC doesn't see you any different than any other student on campus. Professors treat you exactly like any other student, and they wouldn't necessarily know that you're in early college unless you told them. Students complete high school credit requirements and earn college credit while they're with us. All of the classes that they take earn both high school and college credit. And our program pays tuition for approved courses between 12 and 16 credits. Our students must have between 12 and 16 credits, fall, winter, and spring terms. And we pay for all of the tuition. What students would pay for would be books and transportation to PCC. If a student qualifies for free and reduced lunch, early college pay for books and pays for TriMet passes to campus. And we will talk a little bit more further on in the presentation about free and reduced lunch and how you can apply for free and reduced lunch, or how you can give us evidence that you qualify for free and reduced lunch and books and whatnot. So that's kind of a early college in a nutshell. One thing I did want to talk about is fall term, and I mentioned this in the email to all of you, to parents and students that I sent out after you were accepted. PCC has not made a final determination on what fall term is going to look like. Right now, they have indicated that fall term is going to be in what is called sustained reopening. And in sustained reopening, courses are being offered that are in a lot of the courses that they in a sustained reopening are the CTE classes, so the hands-on technical classes, some science lab classes, and some classes that are necessary for health and safety of Oregonians. So fire science, the trainings around fire science, nursing, public safety, a lot of those courses. A lot of those courses are that are not courses that fall term students take. PCC has indicated that they're going to make a final determination on what fall term is going to look like a little bit later in the summer. And so we'll have to update you on what that will look like. Right now, they're projecting a combination, or they're projecting remote learning for many of the classes that our fall students will be taking. But again, they haven't made a final determination. So we are waiting to see what they say, and we will update you on all of that information when we do receive it. And obviously, we'll open it up to questions at the end for more clarifications on fall term. So this next section we're going to talk about is preparing students for early college and understanding placement scores. And as I was talking, I noticed some students were coming into to the presentation. And so I'm just going to reiterate a couple things that folks who just joined us should know. The first is that we're recording this session and we're going to post it on our website. So everything we're sharing with you is going to be there for you after this presentation. And if you could please rename yourself with your student's first and last name, that will help us with our attendance. So Megan, I think you're taking this section?
Yep.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Brooke. I'm one of the counselors at Rock Creek. Welcome. Congratulations. I can tell you that the next couple of years will definitely change your life, and it'll be very exciting. So anyway, happy to have you here. So preparing students for what to expect. There is definitely more freedom, okay? When you're going to PCC, no one is monitoring your daily progress or assignment completion. Students, your independent self-motivation and discipline are important, And kind of the ratio they say is for every hour in class, students may have 2 hours of homework. So prepare for that as well. You'll be in classes a much shorter period of time during the week, but most of the work is done outside of class. And how can parents and guardians support their student? I think just seeing if they're doing their homework, ask to see the syllabus. Every professor has to provide a syllabus, usually on the first day, if not on the first day, within the first week. Help students with assignment planning and check in with them and see if they know what their current grade is. Students should always know what their current grade is. And if they don't, they can email the teacher, set up a meeting or whatnot. So, the one thing is that I think we get into further, but the professors won't communicate with parents. It's just, it's a confidentiality issue. It's a FERPA issue. And so it really is on the student to be responsible. With freedom comes responsibility, and they're going to treat you as an adult. And so that's what the expectation is as well. Go to the next one. So as I said, students are held to adult standards and expectations. Even though you aren't 18, you're going to be in college and they're going to treat you as an adult. And so that's what the expectations are. Your professors will not know that you're a high school student unless you tell them that. So they're going to expect that you are 18 years old and treat you accordingly. We're guests on this campus, and how you behave, whether it's a class in remote or in person, this allows us to continue the program. And so we expect, our expectations are also that you are a reflection of the early college program. Parents, as I said, the college standards limit parent access and communication. And so if that's where it really becomes, your relationship may change a little bit as far as, checking in with teachers and whatnot. You will be checking in with your student, and your student will be the one checking in with teachers if there's a question about something. So professors cannot communicate directly with parents, only with students. And so if you did email them, it's actually the professors cannot email you back. And regulations, the FERPA regulations also limit early college access to grades and progress until grades are posted. We see the final grades, but we can't see, what a student is receiving midterm or something like that, or how they're doing. Now, we do something the first term with students. We do a thing called course progress notes, and it's like a midterm progress report. And students are required their first term to get that from their teacher, from each of their teachers, so we can kind of check in. It's not like we're checking on you. We want you to know how you're doing in your classes, and so you can adjust accordingly. Expectations are to be open, honest, and transparent communication from student to parents and to counselors. And I can say without doubt, the students that are the most successful in early college and in PCC classes are the students that are communicating on a regular basis, not only with us, but also with their teachers. We can't help you unless we know that you need the help. And so if anything else, that may change kind of how you may have to get out of your comfort zone and reach out to us and let us know when something's not going well. We'd rather know sooner rather than later. We're here, we're not judging, we're here to support your success, and we can strategize what's the best way for that to happen. So the way that we also support students is the first term, all students, all of you guys will be taking college success and career guidance classes. And the first one you'll take is CG 101 and 102, which is, I can't remember what the name of it is. Someone can jump in. It's College Success and Survival, I think is what it's called. And all students will be taking that from their counselor, their first term. This will be the only class that you're in that will be only other early college high school students. So it's kind of nice. You'll get to know the other early college students while you're taking this class. And what we do in that class is we don't just say, okay, you're going to college, figure it out. This class is really setting you up for success and giving you the support and the resources. So we look at, how to communicate with professors. What's the best way to email a professor? We look at a lot of personal responsibility, how to take personal responsibility for things. Also, communication, organization, procrastination, all those things that can be barriers to success in college. We look at planning, study, skills, all of that stuff right there. And I think students, I mean, it's a good, everyone benefits from this, whether you're a straight A student or you've struggled before. College is a whole different thing. And so I think that it's a big benefit, I think, for all students. And then in the winter and spring, you'll take another class from the counselors, and this will be life plan, career. Oh my gosh, I'm like forgetting what these classes are. Career and life planning. And this class is a class that you will be looking at investigating a future career. You'll take the strong interest inventory, Myers-Briggs. You'll take a lot of assessments and just kind of get some feedback. Doesn't mean that that's what you're going to do, but get a lot of feedback on what different careers might be a good match for your personality, your skills, and whatnot. And you'll do some informational interviews. And then the final is that you are presenting this career and presenting what kind of education is needed, what kind of training is needed, what's the outlook for that job, education needed, what colleges you could go to get that education or training. So that's a big one. The other thing is we have the orientations, which you're doing right now. And then every term, students at a minimum will meet with their counselor one-on-one to be planning out what they're going to be taking next year. And that's a requirement each term, because we want to make sure that students are taking the right classes. Number one, our priority is high school graduation. But number two is what classes could you be taking right now that are going to save you money and time when you get to your next level? If it's going on to a 4-year college, what prerequisites could you be taking at PCC right now? So that's required every term. Truthfully, most of us meet with our students, I would say 2 or 3 times during the term, but again, we'll meet with them whenever they reach out to us as well. And part of the big thing with the PC, with our CG 101 and 102 class that students take their first term, is that they learn about the resources. And PCC has incredible resources, tutoring that goes on every day, I think even on Saturdays. Students can get math tutoring. There's a writing center. This is free, and they have access at, during open hours, which I think are usually like maybe 9 to 8 p.m. There's also counseling that's offered through PCC. There's resource centers. There's the Women's Health Center. There's a Queer Center. There's the Multicultural Center. There's a Veteran Center. Anyone can access these centers, and they have tutoring as well. PCC has academic advising as well. And there's all kinds of clubs and sports that are offered. So that's part of the whole first term also that we're going over in that CG class, is having students know, kind of get familiar with all of these resources, and they're incredible. And what I always say is that there really is no reason that someone should struggle, because there's so much help out there that's provided by PCC.
One thing that I would just interject is that the resources for PCC are available, or were available, whether we were in person or remote. So the tutoring, the counseling, the resource centers, the academic advising, all that's available whether we're remote or in person.
Yeah, and right now you can actually make an individual appointment through Zoom, or you can do a drop-in session as well. So students will be taking, understanding your placement scores. Students will be, your placement score, most students will be taking Reading 115 and Writing 115 their first term. There is an integrated reading and writing class, 115. We caution you about that class because it is only 6 credits versus the readings 4 credits and the writings 4 credits. So it's 8 credits if you take them separately. The integrated reading and writing is 6 credits, but it is a much faster pace. So if you feel like that's something that you feel confident in and you can do, then go ahead and sign up for that. It does give you a little bit more room in your schedule to take something else, but we did have some students that it was a little bit fast for them last year. Your math with your placement is the highest math class that is allowable that you will be able to sign up for, okay? Placement scores tend to run high. So many early college, high school students choose to drop a math level. So look at your, there's directions here on how to look at your placement results. Probably most of you guys know what you tested into, but you can always use this as a quick guide and check it out. And then what I say is check out what that class is teaching and see if you feel confident that you have kind of the prerequisites and of maybe the class before that to make sure that you're in the right placement. We'll talk about that more in the next slide, I think. So with you got a math placement score that says one of these, okay? So like if you got math 58, 60, and 65, that means in theory, you can choose whatever math any one of those is okay, but we would suggest you select math 60. If you got math 65 or 70, we suggest math 65. And that's just on the experience that we've had with other students, that's a better level out of all of those. Math 65, 70, and 95, usually 65 or 95, but honestly assess your capabilities to make the decision on what level you think is best for you. If it says math 95 or 98, select math 95. And then if it says math, this is a trickier one, math 111, 243, definitely select math 111. Not stats is not usually the first place to go. And then math 251 is calculus. So you probably got, most of you, I would say 90% of you got your math placement in one of these. And so refer to this because this is what we've learned, just kind of evidence-based with our students, is that selecting the math levels that we have right here is the best way to go to set yourself up for success.
I can take this one.
Okay.
So students, if you tested into math 111 or above, so any number math above math 111 or above, it requires that you have completed reading and writing 115, which you have not done. So if you placed into math 111 or above and you want to take one of those classes, and remember we said that many of our students drop down one level, but if you placed into math 111 or above and you want to take one of those classes, I will be emailing you about a process to obtain an override to allow you to take a math class above math 111. And I will be doing that probably after our graduation next week. And so you'll be needing to check your email about that. Okay. So the next section, we're going to be talking about selecting classes and registering. And Sarah's taking this one.
All right, so I'm going to be sharing a lot of information with you and I'm going to be going pretty quickly, but please know that most of what we're sharing with you is not necessarily applicable for your first term because your first term is going to be very prescribed as far as what classes you can take. So much of this is applicable for terms later on. And prior to registering for other terms, you'll have a personal one-on-one meeting with your counselor, and you will also be getting more information through your CG classes. So just know that, again, I'm going to go through a lot of information, but if you don't retain it or have a lot of questions, know that we're going to come back to this. These are just things that a lot of students want to know about coming into our program, so we've included this information for that purpose. So this first slide is talking about how credits transfer. So college credits are very different than high school credits. And so as Michael mentioned previously, our students need to take between 12 and 16 credits per term. And so this gives you an idea of how those credits convert. So any class that is a 2 to 4 credit class converts to a 0.5 high school credit. So that is going to be the vast majority of classes that our students take will be a 0.5 high school credit. There are a couple 5 to 6 credit classes that count as a 1.0 high school credit. So Megan talked about that integrated reading and writing class. So that's one class. There's a couple math classes, a couple science classes, and some of the foreign language classes are these higher level credit classes. Most 1 credit classes will count as a 0.25 high school credit. With the exception of PE. PE, just because of the amount of time that students spend in class, even though it's 1 credit, will still count as a 0.5 high school credit. So our students average between 12 and 14 credits usually, although they can take up to 16, which equates to between 2 and 2.5 credits per term. So most of our students are earning about 6 high school credits per year. So that may be a little bit lower than you've been earning throughout high school, but there is a lot of flexibility. And so again, we'll individualize this for each student based on your goals and your needs. So these are a couple of different possible, this is basically what your schedule is going to look like for the fall. So all students, with very few exceptions, will take reading and writing 115, or you have the option to do that integrated reading and writing class. You'll take a math class during your first term, which for most of you will be 4 credits. And then you'll also take that 2-credit CG 101, 102. And so this is what we expect our first term student schedules to look like. So if you're doing the reading and writing classes, you'll have 14 credits. If you opt to do the integrated reading and writing class, you do have room for an elective. And so you could be between 14 and 16 credits. And so this is just what you can expect your fall term to look like. And then in terms after this, you have a lot more flexibility and freedom in what you choose. But your first term is very, very prescribed, and our students are taking mostly the same things as other students. So you may be in different classes and can have a schedule that's slightly different. But this is just what to expect going into fall term. And then this is just an idea of what a possible schedule could look like. And we wanted to show you this because the schedule at the college level looks very different than what you have at the high school level. So at PCC, most classes are offered 2 days a week for about 2 hours each meeting, 2 to 2.5. And so a schedule could be that you have 2 classes on Mondays and Wednesdays and only 1 class on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then for CG, all students will be taking your CG class with your counselor. And so we'll be emailing you the CG schedule prior to registration. And so you'll sign up with a CG class that's with your counselor. So this is not any particular set schedule. This is really just an example of what a schedule could look like, and that you can see you're in classes a lot less time than you have been throughout high school. But as Megan discussed, there is a much greater homework requirement. So just keeping that in mind. Being online, things have been a little bit different. Some classes have been shorter, or they're only meeting once a week. As Michael said, we don't have those details yet, but you'll be able to see those details once the schedule becomes available in a couple of weeks. And this is a slide I'm going to spend very little time on, but we always have questions about what classes fulfill the different subject areas in high school. So this will be something that we go into a lot of detail when we meet for CG classes, as well as when we do individual meetings. But just to give you a super quick snapshot of what different options are for students. So social studies, for example, students have a lot of flexibility in what they can take to fulfill the social studies requirements. And so we really just want to show you this to get you excited about the options and opportunities that you will have as students. And again, not something you need to worry about now because your first term is going to be very scripted, but as early as winter term, you can start to have a lot more flexibility in what you choose to take to fill your high school requirements and working towards your post-secondary goals. All right, so here's where we get into some of the nitty-gritty things. So you will need to, prior to registration, watch a short video that we've put together that is on the Early College website, and it tells you step-by-step how to register for classes. But you can start to familiarize yourself with the registration process prior to registration opening up for you. So this is a screenshot. This is actually a screenshot of my PCC page. So this is a portal that all students have access to. So this is definitely something that I encourage you to start exploring now. You can't do anything to hurt it. It's just a place for you to start looking around. But we've got a couple of things highlighted for you to pay attention to as it relates to registration. So the first one is that pink circle that's before you register. So at some point, you're going to want to go in and click and see when you can register. And PCC is still figuring out details, so there's probably not going to be any information available to you just yet. But once the schedule comes out in late June, and as we get closer to the week of July 12th, you'll be able to go in and just verify your registration date and time. It's likely going to be the Thursday of the week of July 12th, but we just don't know for sure at this point. And then the yellow circle that's drawn on here is one way to search for classes. So again, the schedule is not available, but once it is, you can go in and look for classes to register and actually go through the registration process. So this is where it's going to be really important that you watch the video on the step-by-step process to look for classes as well as how to register. So on the day of registration, you are ready to go. And then another thing to be aware of is your degree. So I am not a PCC full-time student, but I do take community education classes for fun. But we want our students to select the AAOT, the Associate of Arts transfer. We ask you to do this because it can advance when you register for classes. And so if you have a degree set, you would be able to register a few days earlier than if you have not declared a degree. By selecting this AAOT, you are not committing to this degree. And again, this will be something we go into a lot more detail in CG and through individual meetings. So know that you're not locking yourself in. This is just the most flexible degree as far as registration goes. PCC has some very specific timelines as far as when you can change your degree. So you are likely not going to be able to change your degree until the very beginning of July. And you have to do so before you register for classes. Once you register for classes, you're not able to change your degree until the next registration term comes around. And so we will send out more details when we are sharing information about registration. But it's something that we just wanted to briefly mention now. And we'll follow up with some more information as it becomes available to us and as dates get solidified within PCC. So once you are able to start looking for classes, there's a couple of different things to look for. So as Michael said, we're still a bit unsure about if we will be in person or if we're remote. If we are in person, you will select all in-person classes. But if we are still doing distance learning, there's a couple things to look for. So this top one shows a remote class. So we want our students to take remote classes. And remote classes mean that you will meet at a designated time for your class. And so this first one has students meeting Tuesday and Thursday from 9 to 10:50 a.m. And so that's what we want students to look for. It's also important that students select classes at the campus you're assigned to, so either Rock Creek or Sylvania. So SY is Sylvania, RC is Rock Creek. So the second one listed also is a remote class, but you'll notice there's no time listed. And so what we've experienced this year is that this class is either offered as an online only class. So you can see this one says there's no Zoom sessions, even though it says it's a remote class. Or we've also had it where there's no designated times, or it says TBD is the time. And the week before classes, a teacher will email students and say, this is the time we're meeting for class. And it often happens that that conflicts with a class they're already signed up for. So we want you to not sign up for classes that don't have a designated time. And then the third option is a web class. So the web classes are ones that are entirely online. There are no Zoom meetings. And this is something that students have access to later on. But as far as being a first-term student, our first-term students are not allowed to sign up for web classes. We just, in our experience, have found that students are more successful and enjoy themselves more when they're either in the situation that we're in or in a remote class, and then in person when that opportunity becomes available. So as far as selecting classes, that top example is what you need to be looking for, is one that aligns with your campus and has a designated time that is set for class.
Sarah, I'm going to interject just with a couple things. Other things to notice right here, and we'll get into this later, but this class has 25 of 25 seats open. So there are no students in this class right now. So it's totally full and would be a class that you can sign up for. You'll notice this one says 25 of 25 that are open. So, or 12 of 25 that are open. So this class has some students in it. You'll notice here that it lists the textbooks and the cost of the textbooks. This one has no textbooks and no fees. Early college pays for fees, but we do not pay for textbooks unless you qualify for free and reduced lunch. And then right here is the professor for these classes. Okay.
So we want to do as much as possible to support you in picking your classes. So prior to registration, please feel free to email your counselor, and we'll share counselor contact information at the end of this presentation. Do be aware that the last day for counselors is June 21st. So after that, we won't be checking email. However, on the day of your registration, we will have a Zoom drop-in room for any questions that you have. And so we'll be sharing that information once we know when the registration date is. And then there are times where there are some registration questions and issues that are beyond the capabilities of early college to fix. And so we want you to have the PCC registration hotline, which we've posted for you here. And so they can also help answer some general questions, but they're a little bit more on the technical side of registration. So if for some reason you are not able to register for a class with no obvious reason, you would want to contact the registration hotline to see if there's some issue on your end or on their end that's preventing you from being able to do that. But for the most part, counselors are able to troubleshoot issues that arise, and we will be available for you on the day of registration to help answer any questions that do come up.
And one final thing to just note is that your day of registration is the first day that you can register for classes. Students can change classes and register, and we want you registering on that first day, but we have the ability to change schedules all the way through August. Obviously, as more students register, there's less availability for classes and things, but just know that the first day to register is the day that we're supporting you.
And then just some general tips for scheduling. So the schedule, I believe, is going to be available June 25th. So when that becomes available, start looking it over and creating a tentative schedule. It is also important that you have your ideal schedule and then a backup plan. You guys are the last group of students to get to register for classes, so there is a possibility that your perfect plan may not come to fruition because other students will fill that up. We do allow you to be on the wait list as long as you're in spots 1, 2, or 3. Anything lower than 3 in our experience doesn't end up in the class. And if you do end up on a wait list, counselors will contact you and give you some more information about it too. And then it's also important to check the PCC website the day before your registration just to see if any of the classes that you planned have filled up, and that way give yourself time to find an alternative schedule. And then just some other tips that we encourage you to follow as far as scheduling goes is to start with your CG class. You will, like I mentioned, take your CG class from your counselor. And so you'll have 1 or 2 class options. So it's going to be a bit more limited in selection than some of your other classes. Then we encourage you to find a math class next. And we want you to look for a professor that's going to math presentation. There we go. And so students have found using ratemyprofessor.com can be a useful tool to help pick a professor. Please take Rate My Professor with a grain of salt. Some students post on it after receiving a poor grade and are a bit disgruntled and want a place to complain. But many students do put valuable information, like this professor only has 1 paper, so your entire grade is based on this 1 paper. This professor has a lot of office hours and availability. So it's a tool that you can use, but don't let it be a be-all, end-all decision maker for you. So once you've got CG and math scheduled, then look for the reading and writing or IRW classes that will work best with your schedule. And then lastly, if you do have space for an elective, pick that one last. And there's so many elective options. Anything that's not math, reading, or writing really is an elective. So many of you will not take an elective class during your first term, and that's totally okay. You'll have time to take it later. But if you do, you're welcome to talk to your counselor and we can make some suggestions for classes students have really enjoyed.
Can I add something, Sarah?
Please.
Yeah, so I just say one thing I say too is that when you're choosing your professors and you're looking at Rate My Professor, choose by the best professor, not the best time that works for you. Okay. You're going to have a much better experience if you have the best professor. You can choose that. Usually you can tell pretty quickly who the best professors are because those will be the classes that will fill up right away. And so I would just, I really suggest that you looking more at looking at the professor, not the time. So if it means that you have to take a class on a time that you really didn't want to, go with that rather than just picking a class by the time. The other thing is that, and I don't know if you said this already, Sarah, but almost everyone does have room to take a PE class, and that's a good elective to take as well. And they've got so many different PE classes offered that's something, it's a 1 credit class that usually people can fit in, and students really love PE. There's all kinds of things, basketball, soccer, yoga, meditation, all kinds of things to do there too. So explore the different classes. There's a lot of different options.
And so I just notified Michael that he stopped his screen share, so we'll get that back up for you in just a minute, but I will go ahead and go on to the next slide, which I've got pulled up over here, and just talk you through it. So
Sorry
what I
about
was going to
that.
talk about is exactly what Macon just shared, is that make your schedule around the best professor, not the time that's convenient for you. And then some other things that we also encourage you to think about when you're making your schedule is to allow time for a break between classes. So you'll eventually figure out if stacking your classes makes sense, meaning one right after the other, but we really encourage students to allow for a break between classes. And so have your reading class, give yourself an hour or so, 2 hours, and then take another class. Especially if we're in this online environment still, it's pretty exhausting to sit for several hours straight listening to lectures. So plan your schedule according to the way that you learn best, and consider having breaks in between your classes to either do some homework, get a snack, just relax, whatever it is that is going to serve you best. And then we also encourage you to spread your classes throughout the week. So not making it so you only have classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but scheduling throughout the week, just as you've done throughout your whole high school experience. I don't know if you guys saw, the Holt made an appearance. That's my son, who is very excited that I'm here talking to prospective students. So I apologize for that interruption. So that's what we really want you to think about as you're going into planning your schedule. And again, schedule comes out in a couple of weeks, and feel free to check with counselors if you have questions about how to build a schedule. So I think with that, we turn it back over to Michael for some administrivia.
All right. Thanks, everybody, and apologies about messing up the screen share. So some administrivia. So there, I sent you all some documents, and I sent you all some documents either last night or several nights ago when you registered for classes, or when you registered for this session. And in the first one that I want to go over, and not all of them I'm going to go over in a lot of detail, but this first one I would like to go over, and that's this document, PCC College Expectations for Early College High School Students. And as I mentioned, you're treated like any other student at PCC, and there are some expectations that PCC has of you, and they expect mature adult-like behavior. They have a zero tolerance policy about behavior that is disruptive in the classroom. They have about language that is inappropriate, offensive, things like that. They assume that the students who are coming in here are going to exhibit adult-like behavior. The average age of students at PCC is 26 to 27 years old, and the students that are in your classes have paid for courses themselves. And so they will expect you to be following all of the guidelines. And what I typically say to students is that what you need to understand is that if you've ever had a job, or if you're going to have a job, you need to treat this like a job. At your job, if you decide not to go to your job one day and you don't call your boss, if you're going to be out sick and you don't call your boss, well, chances are you're going to get fired. And that is exactly the same thing that happens at PCC. If you're going to be out sick, you need to email your professor, and you need to email your professor beforehand, the night before. It's not like high school where someone just calls into the attendance office and you get your absence excused. You need to reach out to your teachers. You need to reach out to your professors. Please make sure that you take a moment and read through this expectations, because the expectations of students is different than high school. The second document, and I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this, is this community guidelines. And if I were to say, if someone were to be coming into our program brand new and say, what is the most important document for me to review, to know about kind of the ins and outs of early college, high school, this would be that document. So the first thing I'd like to highlight is students and families at PCC, communication is done through email. Professors email email directly to students to their PCC email address and their PCC email address only. And that's what early college does as well. Students, I'm going to be emailing just your early college email from here on out. Parents, the emails that you are receiving are the emails that students designated as primary contact information for you. So we'll be emailing to those email addresses as well. And students, unlike high school where you can log out on June 21st on your last day and you don't have to check your email over the summer, that's not the case here. You're going to need to be checking your email all summer long, and so that you are prepared for things like registration and the first day of class and things like that. We will be emailing you throughout the summer with things that you need to pay attention to, things that you need to do to be prepared. So make sure that you are checking your email address, your PCC email address, at least once every 2 days or so over the summer. And when you're in session, when classes are in session, you'll be checking it every day. Credit limits, we talked about that. Students need to be taking between 12 and 16 classes, 12 and 16 credits. And we talked about textbooks and transportation. PCC requires maintaining, for academic standing, PCC maintains requiring a 2.0 GPA and passing all classes with a C or better to be in good academic standing. And students who earn below a C in any classes, or an incomplete, or withdraw from any classes, are placed on academic support in our program. And we provide more support to our students. We have some regulations for them to stay in the program. If you have any grades below a C on any particular term, we have some expectations of you that next term. And if you have multiple terms in a row where you have grades below a C, that's when we have to have a conversation about whether early college is the best fit, or if the best path towards high school graduation is back to your home high school or an alternative program. Students cannot withdraw from a class without counselor permission and without my permission. And changing your schedule is also something that requires counselor approval. The classes that you take, students make a plan with their counselor on what classes they're going to take. And deviating from that plan requires student and counselor conversation and permission. The reason for that is that not all classes are going to meet high school requirements, and that's why you are forced to meet with your counselor before you register every term. There's also something on here about IEP support, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But just know that if you qualify for an IEP or a 504, there's a process, and we're going to outline that for you at the end of this presentation. Residency requirements. So students must live within the Beaverton School District boundary or the Tiger-Tualatin School District boundary to remain in this program. So if you do move out of those districts, typically you can remain in through the end of the year, but at the end of the year, then you do have to go to your new school district. All juniors must take the the Oregon State assessment, and that's the state test that are required in the spring. And that's another important piece. And then finally, graduation. Students who go to early college, our schedule is a little bit different than the home high schools. So for any of you who have seniors, seniors graduate, seniors will start graduating this weekend. in the Beaverton School District. And seniors' last day was Tuesday, was yesterday in Beaverton. I believe it was the same day in Tiger Tualatin. Early college high school spring term goes until June 15th. So students must meet graduation requirements because we go later. Students must meet graduation requirements by the end of winter term. This is typically not a problem if students are passing their classes and if they're coming into our program with at least 12 credits, which is what was the requirement. So if students meet their graduation requirements by winter term, they qualify to walk in their high school graduation in their former high school where they're transferring to early college from. So your home high school or option school. If you don't meet those requirements, then you have to show proof that you are passing your classes by a certain date to walk in your home high school graduation. Early college high school does not have a graduation ceremony. We have a celebration and students will participate in that, but it is a little bit different than the formal walk across the stage graduation ceremony. And then there are certain required events that students must attend to remain in our program. The first one is this meeting. The second one is an orientation in the fall for all of our students, which we will be doing and talking about that in the fall. And then there's a senior day at the start of senior year, and a couple other required meetings throughout the year. So just know that those are required meetings, and those are meetings that we require so students can continue into our program. This next document is a really important document, and this is a document that allows parents to access information, confidential information about their student and about grades and things like that. This is a really important document. From time to time, students will be in situations where, I'll just use a particular example. A student is in a car accident and a parent is trying to reach out to PCC for information. PCC can't disclose information without this form filled out. Obviously, if there's ever any issues like that, the first call is to me, the first call is to the counselor at early college, and we help shepherd people through this. But this document is also very important, and we encourage all students and parents to fill out this document. It can be done online, and this document goes through all of the ins and outs on how to do that. This is a liability release document, and this is a document that parents need to sign. And it is a standard liability document that PCC requires all students to fill out, or parents or guardians to fill out before they attend classes at PCC. This document, not going to spend a lot of time on this document, but this document, one of the federal government regulations is that we're required to inform parents that we don't provide a bus from your home high school to PCC Rock Creek or PCC Sylvania. And so this document acknowledges that you realize that we're not sending a bus to and from campus. And this document is very similar. For those of you who are joining the Beaverton School District or the Tiger Tualatin School District for the first time, this is the Beaverton School District Student Family Handbook. And this document just acknowledges that you understand that there are some rules and regulations that students are required to adhere to, and this document acknowledges that you have viewed that document. If you are already in the Beaverton School District, you have fallen under the umbrella of this Student Family Handbook for your entire time in the Beaverton School District. But when you move from one school to another program, it requires acknowledgement of this handbook. So a couple things to just go over with everybody. The day of registration, we're going to have a drop-in Zoom room, and we'll talk to you all about that a little bit later, or I'll be emailing you about that a little bit later. And then on the Early College High School website, we have, under academics and new students, we have this registration video. We have the presentation. We have all of the required paperwork that I emailed to you and how to upload it. We have the FAQs and updates for PCC for fall term. And then Right here are all of the early college high school counselors and their email and their alpha. And as Sarah mentioned, they are working until June 21st. And at the bottom here is our special education and 504 instructor, Corinne Replier, and that's her email address as well. And so right now I'm just going to pause for a second, and I'm going to show you where all of this information is located on our website. And so I'll stop sharing the screen, pull that up, and I'll show all of you where you can access all of this information, and then we'll open it up to questions. Okay. All right, so here's our website. And if you recall, you went right here for our application, and our application's right there. And right here is a new student section. And if you click on this, here's the PowerPoint from our presentation. We haven't uploaded the presentation. Right here is all of that required paperwork that I emailed you. So you can download it again. And if you would please submit that paperwork right here. You just put in the student name, their email address, G number, and then here are all of those documents, and you can download the document and or submit the document into all of these fields. Now, if you don't have the ability to scan something, that's fine. Just simply take a photo of the document that you've signed and email it to your, or get it to your email onto your computer and upload it. We don't have to have a pristine copy. A photo of your signed document is totally fine. Right here is how to change from dual credit to credit. And I think we cleared all of this up during the application process. But if any of you run into an issue while you're registering about being a dual credit student, this is how you can change it. For those of you who are involved in OSAA sports, this is really just an FYI for the fall. This is a form you have to fill out in the fall so that you can participate in fall sports. For those of you who qualify for free and reduced lunch, here's a link to the forms that you have to fill out each year to qualify for free and reduced lunch, and for Beaverton and Tiger Tualatin. And then so that we can pick up your books and we can give you TriMet passes, there's instructions here on how to do that. Parents, we have a section here about parenting an early college high school student. And these words of wisdom are from former early college high school parents. And so I really encourage you to read over this section, which goes over their words of wisdom. They are not Michael Crandall's words of wisdom. They are former parents' words of wisdom. For those of you who are joining us from a private or a home school, you need to register for, at your neighborhood high school, and we want you to do that after you have completed all of your coursework for this academic year. After you do that, right here are instructions on how to do that for all of the high schools in Beaverton. And then for our partner districts, contact your neighborhood high school directly. And they're going to ask for this information right here: proof of address, immunization records. If you live with someone other than the legal parents, they'll ask for a power of attorney. So all this information is here for you. The FAQs will be here, and we will update this over the summer. And counselor assignments along with emails. And right here, they haven't developed our CG 101, 102 courses, but we'll be dropping those in here, and that will be in this section. And then finally, for those of you who qualify for a 504 or special education, we're going to be working with you in August, but if you want to get a head start, we have information on PCC disabilities and supports for students who have an IEP or a 504. So all of the information and like your one-stop shop for all questions early college related are right here in this section, and it's under academics and new students. So I'm going to stop the share now, and this is where we will open it up for questions. And so thank you all for your patience. There was a lot of information, but we're here to help, and we'll open it up for questions.